Yo, what's good, YouTube? This is Jay from TNJ, and make sure you hit that like button. In this video, we will be doing a little bit of a retrospective on one of the greatest sports games of all time, NCAA Football 11 on the PS2. Now, there are a lot of features that were taken out of the game going from the PS2 Xbox generation over to the 360 and PS3. Just taking a look at some of the game modes in the early version. Dynasty obviously and Road to Glory were there, but spring drills, they actually had the mascot mashup, and then the scrimmage, which kind of simulated a spring game type of feel. But let's just hop into some of these features here in the PS2 version. And if you guys didn't know, I will be starting a series in this game, and let's just get into these core features. So a big one was create a school. Now, Team Builder tried to replace this kind of on the next gen, and they did a pretty good job, to be honest. It's pretty much the same thing, but I kind of don't like that they took it completely out of the game, because just looking at the options here, I mean, it's pretty much Team Builder in a clone. I mean, there are even more features in Create a School here than there are in Team Builder. I think the one advantage of Team Builder was that you could import a custom logo. You can't do that here. But everything else is pretty much the same. You can select the playbook, the team type. So if you want to do one of those juggernaut teams with all A+, you can also do an academic school that is kind of a 1-star prestige, and a cupcake school, which is D+ all around the board. That's actually pretty cool, because if you want to create a couple of teams and import them into Dynasty, which we'll see later, you could do that here. But one actual thing that was in this game that wasn't in Team Builder was the stadium options here, and some of the stuff like orientation, scoreboard, video screen, where you want to put that stuff at, whether or not there are press boxes, all that. I mean, that's pretty cool, to be honest. And then obviously you had the jerseys that you could modify as well. Now, the one advantage that this game had over Team Builder as well with the creating a school were the jerseys for the alternate 2. So alternate 2 had to be white for Team Builder teams. In this game, you can make them anything you want. So if you wanted a green, yellow, blue, and another brown jersey, for example, you could do that here in the Create a School functionality. So then they had Create a Player, which they took out on next gen as well. I actually like this feature because it's kind of easier to kind of create players and just sprinkle them around the NCAA before you start up your Dynasty or Road to Glory or whatever it may be. You could also pick face shape, which is actually really interesting because, you can have multiple faces that look the same, but then you could just create a new shape, and that would be not create one, but select a new shape, and that would kind of, give you a different element to how the players look. Now, also with gear and equipment, you can also change it so that they wear sleeves when it's cold only, and you can also give them turf tape as well, which is pretty cool. I think they took out turf tape and put it back in Madden, but it isn't present in NCAA 14, which is something that I wish they would have kept in there. It's just a small little touch there. And then also when modifying the ratings here, you can adjust those by 3 and 2 points at a time, which it makes it way easier to create players. It makes it faster as well. So also another feature that they had back in the PS2 version of this game was create a sign. Now this would be cool if you had kind of like a slogan for a school or some type of hashtag or something like that. You can also include that on these signs, and based on the scenario, a different sign would show up, which is actually pretty cool. It's a nice touch to this game that they added. I wish they would have kept that. It just added a new element to just stadium atmosphere. Then they also had FCS rosters, so not just FBS full rosters, Division 1. They also had FCS rosters, which is pretty cool because if you wanted to start a Dynasty, you could just start it with any of these FCS schools, and you can also schedule them as a school in Dynasty to play against. So let's just hop into a quick run of the Dynasty features. Now, I don't want to go over Road to Glory. It's not really my thing, but some features in that were going to class and having to go to events and having to go to campus events and having to practice, do drills, and kind of have that balance. You had to keep a GPA as well, which I kind of think they had on NCAA 11 on the 360. I think they had more features, and they kind of took that out. But let's just hop into some of the Dynasty features. Now, when you hop into the Dynasty, you can import FCS teams, But then hopping into the preseason menu, it looks a little different than 14. In 14, you kind of have the recruiting right away, the redshirting depth chart, and then the custom schedule, and that's pretty much it. But here you actually can go to assign custom jersey numbers, which is pretty cool seeing that in a list view. But the best part is summer training. Now, why this is interesting is because now you can target specific training on different positions. And say, for example, you had a freshman who you wanted to develop. So let's take Jay Tucker, for example. He is a true freshman, but he's not going to start this year. But we want to just develop him, and we're going to probably redshirt him. But we want to just go into a drill and give him some extra points while he is in his redshirt year. So you would hop straight into a drill here. There are about 8 or so drills that you would do, and you can basically go with whoever you want. And at the end of those drills, you can give your players skill points based on what they earned in these drills. This adds another element of team building here in Dynasty mode. And this is what makes one of these Dynasty modes one of the deepest probably in sports gaming history, because if you think about it, we haven't really had that option to do that. And just looking at the results here, this is what I got. I got 5 training bonus points, and I can put on anything. And like I said, the attributes increment by 2 and 3 at a time. So I have 5 points here, but you can see I can add a couple of here to throw accuracy. And look at how the overall rating goes up. He went up to 91 overall. I mean, that is amazing. Then there are other type of drills. You can see the rest of them here. They have offensive and defensive. One of the offensive and defensive of the same drill that they have here is the Oklahoma drill. You can run as an offensive player and also as a defensive player. So here is the defensive player Oklahoma drill that we would run through. So let's just say I wanted to develop my linebacker into just a monster of an All-American. I could do that here by just giving him some extra training points. And this also adds on to in the offseason when they have offseason training on its own and simulate that, and players get rating boosts from that. It's also an extra added boost, and I kind of had tried to do this in NCAA 14 with my Whitetails Dynasty. I had overachievers, and I kind of would give them an overachiever boost based on how they did last season. But here, this is even better because I can give them a boost if they're a freshman as well. So not even if they're on our team at all the previous season, I can give them the boost here. Just put a freshman here and just have him develop in the offseason, even if he's not going to play during the season. So then looking at a running back here, for example, look at him. I mean, I have 5 bonus points to earn with him, and I can add that to whatever attribute I want. And that's the kind of cool thing about this. I mean, you can just develop older players if you want. You can develop guys that are basically going to play 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, whatever you want. And that's what makes it kind of cool. And that's what adds some deepness to this mode overall. So then we hop into preseason recruiting, which is the last step here on the PS2 version. And the difference is that you don't create prospects here in the preseason before the season starts. You actually create them in the off season after the season, but they would still apply to the following season. So if I created recruits in the off season, which you'll see a little bit later, they will still be freshmen in that following season. So this is basically what preseason recruiting is. It's basically just adding guys to your recruiting board, and you have a certain amount of scholarships available based on your team. I do see here I have 15 with Texas Tech to begin with. I did start another dynasty in this, and I had 12. So I think that number varies based on the recruiting points that you have set up in your dynasty, which we'll get to in the offseason as well. So let's just hop into in-season recruiting now. So we already started the season. We're past the preseason stuff, and now we're at the in-season recruiting board. So we have 15 guys on our board, and we cannot add or remove guys from the board. You just pretty much go after the guys. If you don't want to go after somebody, just deduct some points from them. But I get 100 in-season recruiting points, and I can kind of just change them based on how I'm feeling each week. And the one thing that I really love about this is that they don't give you every single attribute, and that's kind of the element that, you know, makes this recruiting a little bit better, because you don't get to see exactly what type of player they are. Because, you know, sometimes, you know, you can take advantage of NCAA 14 with recruiting, because if you don't want a player based on his speed or acceleration, you can just remove him from the board. But here, it's more of a mystery, so that's pretty cool. So another feature that they have here in this game is game prep, Now, this is one of the coolest features that I remember back on this game. Basically, how it works is that you have a certain amount of plays that you can run in this game prep. It's 10. So I can successfully get a first down on 10 plays. That means that in my upcoming game, those plays that I do successfully get a first down with will have an added boost in game. So let's take, for example, this play right here. I threw across the middle and that is completed. I got a first down on this play. So that means it's now a prepared play. So now when I run that play in the upcoming game, it now gets a boost added to the player's attributes on the field. And that's pretty cool. But the downside to this, I guess it's not a downside to the feature, but now I only have 10 opportunities to add plays. So now I just failed on that play. So now I have a max of 8 plays. Well, now I just tried again. Now it's a max of 7 plays. So it keeps going down based on if you successfully get the first down or not. And if you don't, then you're just going to run out of plays to prepare. So I'm actually going to quit out of that play and add some other plays. So then I ended up finishing that, and then I go to the game prep notebook and see that I basically went unprepared with 7 plays and I actually prepared 3. So if I run those 3 prepared plays in the game, I will get a boost to those. So that is actually really, really awesome, because you can also go into practice mode and practice against the team that you're going up against opposing playbook. So it's kind of like simulating, you know how you have in the NFL or even college, where you kind of simulate how the other team plays. You can do that in practice, which is amazing. So let's hop into some other roster options that you have here. One is formation subs, and I want to highlight this specifically because this is actually in NCAA 14. But the difference is in 14, you actually have a limit on the amount of formation subs you can have. Here you don't, which is something that is very, very questionable in 14. I don't know why they gave you a limit, but here you have unlimited options. So one of the other bigger features in Dynasty as well in this is program standards. So this is basically infractions. So your players can get suspended here in the PS2 version. So based on if they failed the test, if they're late for class, if they get in trouble with the law, anything like that. You have a team discipline grade, so you can see a lot of these teams are B and C. So now I found a D team discipline grade. So that basically means that players on this team here in Nevada have bad discipline grades, so they may be more susceptible to getting into, in trouble. So just looking at the rest of the features here, they do still have ESPN the magazine, which was awesome because honestly, just doing well in game and trying to get on that cover of the ESPN magazine was definitely worth it. It was just cool to see your players there instead of seeing in the Dynasty Wire how they have it at NCAA 14. You just kind of took your own pictures and then you just be up there, but this way you had to kind of earn your way onto the magazine cover, which is pretty cool. So then we just simulate to about week 7 here in this Dynasty, and we look at a visit coming up for the #1 tackle in the nation. His name is Greg Magruder, and a couple of things I want to highlight here. We can actually specify what happens on his visit. Now, based on that, he might have an opinion on how our school is compared to the other schools he's considering. Now, say, for example, he had a bad visit. Well, he might just soft verbal and not hard verbal to our team. So he might just say he's going to come and actually not come, which is actually really interesting because in NCAA 14, they just commit and then that's it. But in this game, they actually soft verbal or hard verbal and then eventually sign with your school. So that's pretty interesting. So then we hop into the off season after all of that. I actually didn't go over every single feature. There's a lot more, but one of the ones was divvying up the points. So remember I said that I had 100 recruiting points. Well, there I can actually specify whether to put most of my points in discipline, whether to put most of my points in recruiting or training. And one thing that, is very, very tricky on this game is discipline, because when you discipline players, you suspend them for a half a game, a full game, a couple weeks, a season. You use points. And if you run out of points and your players do run into some type of infraction, the NCAA will start to look at your school and you might receive a bowl ban or even a suspension from a conference championship or something like that. And that's actually a very, very interesting way. And you'll have to be strategic on how and what players you recruit, because if you recruit a bunch of bad eggs, you will actually end up in trouble and may get that ban. So the last feature I do want to highlight here is the spring game, and this was a feature that was awesome. It was just an opportunity for you to see how your players perform against each other and just see what you have coming up for the next season. And incoming freshmen are not eligible for this game, but people that are on the roster are. So this is actually pretty fun. I mean, I wish this was in the offseason in 14. The one thing you do have to do is make sure you set the depth chart so that your players are in the right spots here, because you can see I have number 32 at quarterback. He's actually a running back on the roster. So let's actually get into some actual gameplay here in 11.
I'm Brad Nessler, here along with two of the best commentators in the game, Kirk Herbstreit and Lee Corso. No complaints about the weather tonight, as we see nothing but stars in this contest between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the LSU Tigers. And here come the Tigers. The Crimson Tide seem to have an advantage here. Would you agree with that, Kirk Herbstreit?
Alabama looks a little overpowering in this one. I think it's all because of their running back. He's a tremendous athlete, and Lee, I think he'll have a big game running behind those big hog mollies up front.
I know everyone has been waiting. It's time for my pick. I'm taking Bama. Roll Tide.
Kirk, Lee, we're just about set to see if you're right. Let's send it down to the field.
So I love the presentation here in NCAA 11 on the PS2. I loved having those three, the college game day guys there. It definitely adds a different element to the game. So I am going to play on Heisman here, and I am controlling LSU. As you can see, the opening kickoff is going to be returned for a touchdown. That is Carter, but look at this. A flag on the play, so this one is probably coming back. And let's just check out the flag, and it looks like it's going to be clipping. And that one will come back. I gotta say, I mean, the one thing about the presentation that really is cool about the pregame is that they will highlight the best player on your team based on performance, not just on overall. So right away, when your season starts, they'll probably highlight the highest overall guy or maybe an impact running back. But as the season goes on, let's say if I just play my third string running back ends up starting, they'll actually highlight him instead of the best overall guy on your team. It's actually really cool, because based on your performance is who they will highlight. So you can see a throw out to left side, and that is going to be picked off by Jones. And this is another presentation element that they used to have in the game, the stats right when they make a play. And I love that, because it kind of adds to the story that you can tell in Dynasty. Maybe for, guys that aren't really into the storytelling type of Dynasty and don't really care about that, they just want to play the game, it's not a big deal. But for somebody like me, that you can see I had an interception here, I can see the points in the stats that I get from each turnover and from each big play or whatever the case may be. Another feature in this game, you can just see I just caught an interception, right? So use your interception. There's that overlay of the stats there. You can see he had one interception. But look, there's a flag on the play. So let's check out the flag. It's actually unsportsmanlike conduct. So if your guy ends up celebrating, you might get an unsportsmanlike conduct. Now, the downside to this is that it is called quite a bit. And honestly, it's really not worth keeping on, because if you do keep it on, you just want to make sure that you just skip ahead of a play before your guy starts celebrating, so that you don't get that penalty. But otherwise, your guys will. So I do suggest, if you are starting a dynasty in this game, that you do turn that penalty option off. And it's just because, it just can get excessive. So one more feature here in gameplay is the timeout grouping here with the composure rating. So your players do have composure ratings going into each game, depending on how they performed last game or if it's a rival game. And you can just see some of these throws are way off from both teams here, and it's because the composure is rattled in this rivalry game. And that's pretty cool, because you can see the stadium volume as well, as Richardson gets sacked on that one. And there is a turnover on Alabama. And there you can see the create a sign option. That's an odd-looking first down. That's pretty funny. But this is pretty cool. I mean, this is what I like. And there's the stats again. You can see 1 tackle, 1 sack, 1 interception for Brown already. And that is what makes this game really, really cool. I mean, the presentation in this game is unmatched, unlike any other game. You can see right there another tackle, another stat overlay. I love that. So here's a deep shot. I'm just going to try a deep ball here, and Edwards cannot hold on to that one. And look at this, even like player comparisons, you can see it's not just individual players, it's comparisons as well as the game goes on. And I think it's just really good presentation here on PS2 of all games too. I mean, these games are way ahead of their time. So you can just see I did turn the ball over, and you can see Alabama celebrated there, and they did not get the penalty. So now we fast forward to a 3rd and 8. You can see the stadium pulse is about 130 decibels. Look at this play. I want to highlight the computer AI back in these games. So take a look. This guy starts out under center, number 12, the quarterback. Now, take a look at what he does. He sees that there's a guy coming off the edge. He tries to step up in the pocket and tries to run, but then he realizes one of his guys is open. So he tries to get rid of it and gets hit on the throw, and look where the ball went. It went forward. That's actually some really good physics here in PS2. I mean, that's a while ago. I mean, this game came out over 10 years ago. And I want to highlight this play because you can see the D-line just absolutely pancaking our guy. That's pretty funny. So here's the bubble screen out to the right side, and there's a big hit that time by the defender, and that will be a fumble. And that's one thing I like as well. You know, you can't juke all willy-nilly and do all these spin moves and stuff. Otherwise, you're going to get hit hard and really be open to a fumble. And there is another unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and that's what I'm talking about. When they celebrate a little too much, it just can get a little excessive. That's already 2 in this game. And I would, like I said, I would suggest just turning that off because it just can get a little bit too much. So you can just see there is a drop pass there, and they actually had a kind of cutscene after a drop pass. I actually like that, and where the quarterback's kind of saying, hey, you got to get that next time. So here's Alabama back on offense, trying this one deep, and he's got Hawk, and that is a big-time throw. And there is that player comparison again. I really, really love that, especially in a rivalry game. And you can just see, I think that's the wrong player that they actually have the overlay on. But still, I mean, it's an old game. I mean, it's expected to be a little buggy. And you can just see, I mean, this is what I like. You know, the AI for the CPU is definitely a lot better. You can see how they move in the pocket. Look at Richardson. He moves back to the left. He's not just a statue quarterback, and he gets rid of it to the right side, and he's going to find Abdullah for the touchdown. And you can just see, I mean, the AI is just different. He moved to the right in pocket, moved back to the left. He went to the open zone, threw to the right side, and look where he put it, over the top of a defender. I really, really like this, man. And I got to admit, like, this gameplay is really, really good. And the quality will get a little bit better. I am still working on getting that improved a little bit. But, you know, this game is a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to play in this limited time that I'm playing right here. And just going through the features, I mean, this is a deep game. And the Dynasty itself makes this game playable alone, just managing your team that way. And you can just see we're going for it here on a 4th down. Here's a throw across the middle, and that is going to be completed. 10 yards. I definitely have to get used to this gameplay before hopping into the new Dynasty that we're starting, because right now I am terrible. You can see this throw to the right side. And the one big difference with the controls is that sprint is A, because back on the old games it used to be X and A. I'm on PS2 right now, so the sprint is X. But obviously with the new generation games, it's actually the right trigger. I believe in NCAA 06, they actually had the sprint S trigger. I'm not sure why they got rid of that, but they actually gave you multiple options as far as controller layout. They kind of got rid of it. I'm not sure why, because I think they tried to keep up with NFL Street at that time, so they wanted to kind of give the player an option to switch controller layouts. Not really sure why they took it out of the game, though. So you can see some of the deep shots that they're taking. I like these passes, just one-on-one, seeing if your guy can go up and get it. That's something that the NCAA 14 CPU doesn't really do. They kind of wait until their guy is like either wide open. They kind of like know, as far as like just a CPU AI just knowing that their guys beat your guys on the outside and throw it to them. But they never really give them a chance. And then also the D linemen, O linemen just play. I mean, just look at that. 96 just absolutely destroyed our tackle on that one and got after the quarterback. I mean, those are the type of animations you'll see in these games. So here's a throw deep to the left side, and that is going to be knocked away. And that's one thing I like too, is that there's a lot of plays like that where it's just good defense. They might let you catch it at first, but then the defender knocks it out of your hands. And that's kind of the gameplay element that, you know, kind of adds to this game. And there's another deep shot, one-on-one coverage. That time it was us throwing that ball, and it's completed. And now we get it to about the end of the first half. I'm only going to show the first half here in gameplay. Here's another deep shot towards the end of the half to end it, and that is going to be picked off by Mosby of Alabama, number 4, and he's going to take it back to the 27, and that is going to be the game. I mean, this game is just amazing for a PS2, a game made 10 years ago. I mean, just the features in Dynasty. Road to Glory even has a ton of features as well. And just seeing the gameplay, it's a lot of fun. The CPU AI is amazing, and they are actually really, really smart. And even, I mean, the big thing about this is that for a guy like me that likes rebuilds, I can see the difference between having a bad team and having a good team. I mean, you're not gonna, like, you see scores in real life of like 70 to like 7 and 60 to 14. Those will be actual scores in this game, and that's what's good about it. Is like, it's realistic. I mean, the AI just kills you if you're a bad team. So that's all I'm going to cover here. I want to just go over this game and just question, I mean, is this like the deepest Dynasty mode ever in a college football game or even a sports title at all? I mean, it is 10 years ago. Just remember that. Way ahead of its time. I mean, that is just amazing. So I will be coming out with the Dynasty here in this game probably within the next week. So you do want to stay tuned for that. Hit subscribe, hit that like button. You'll have more plays like this. So stay tuned. Let's get it. Let's go.
I've been working hard for a minute. The ones who don't deserve it seem to be the ones that get it. The ones who speak the truth never get the recognition, but the ones that act foolish seem to get all the attention. It don't matter though. Yeah. Hey, it don't even matter though. No. Hey, it don't even matter.